Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of XPlicit Materia, the podcast where a nerdy drummer talks to his friends, old and new. And today I have a new friend. I have a new friend today, guys, and I need all the friends.
Happy to be called your friend, man.
Yeah, we met via TikTok because apparently all my new friends are all on TikTok, which is crazy. Today's guest. Oh, by the way, can I use your real name, or
you can use my real name? You could use my real name if you want, but okay. People are gonna find me by my handle. But okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to use his real. If he wants to use his real name, I'll allow him to do that. But My Life is an RPG. That is his handle. Mm-hmm. And I want to say real quick before we get started is, dude, that handle is one of the best handles to any social media or anything. Like, I'm jealous that I didn't think of it.
All right, I can tell you the story behind this.
Okay, tell me the story.
If you want to know the story.
I do want to know.
All right. So first, I need to preface this with I am old. I am an old person. I am 37 years old.
Same. We're both old.
Oh, nice. Awesome. We're both, we both have one leg in the coffin. So it's good.
It's like at this point, like nothing is impressive.
Not at all. No. The world could be on fire tomorrow. I'm like, cool. Like whatever. I've been alive long enough to be one of those people who got, do you remember the mailed AOL discs that,
yes.
You got in the mail, and the ones that came in the package when they were still on the,
yes.
3 1/4 inch floppies.
Yes. Yeah. And they were it was like 3.5 and then the magical 4.0. I remember 4.0 was like the big one.
Yeah. So I got the internet for the first time when I was in 5th grade. Blew my mind. Just the idea, like the very first time I got an AOL IM, my mind like exploded, right? And so we all had to come up, I was in a family of 5. We all had to come up with our own screen names. And the point at which we got the internet, my family was just like, it was like a total surprise. Like I didn't know that they were installing it. So they were like, come up with a name now. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. So I was reading DC Comics at the time. I made like a Dark Side reference and I hated it. Like I hated that name. And it was only until several months later that we learned that you could change your name and get a different account. My parents, who were, really, really afraid of the internet at the time, were like, if you're going to change your name, only do it once. We want to be able to keep track of you, so on and so forth. At the same time, I was, in school, and we had a English project, which was about comparing our lives to different forms of media. And you were supposed to do stuff like, my life is like a poem because, or my life is like a movie because. I go in there and I do the project, My Life is an RPG. And I come home that day and like, for some reason, this is, might upset people. I hate like adding numbers to the end of your username on things.
Oh, I'm the same. I'm the same. That would drive me insane.
So every name I tried had numbers on it. And then I eventually tried, because I just did the project, My Life is an RPG, and it's just enough letters, it's basically a sentence to get the name in. And that has stuck on every platform because no one has ever taken it before me. And I've kept it since then.
That is such, I just like, I when I saw that, I was just like, what a great handle. Oh, and okay, your handle, like I caught my eye, and there's another handle from another user on TikTok. And he follows my page, and he comments every now and then. And I'm like, This is one of the best fucking names ever.
Which one's that?
This is Dis fucking guy. So it's DISFUKIN guy. And I'm like, this fucking guy.
Fantastic.
What a great handle. It's just like, that's one thing about TikTok that I really enjoy, is that the amount of creativity that I'm seeing as far as like comedy, just look from the basic users, are just like hilarious.
TikTok has been one of the coolest things I have ever done in my life. So I am a relatively new TikToker. I started TikTok last October. And just the people I have met on TikTok, like I'm a member of so many communities. I'm a member of the fighting game community, of the retro gaming community. You know, like, believe it or not, like, even though I do a lot of science content, I'm not as much a member of the science community. Like, I have a couple people in that community, like Doc Josh Weimer. He's a hilarious neuroscientist. I have a couple physicists, one astronomer, one quantum physicist that, you know, are into this. But like, there's this level of respectability for like the high level science TikToks that I can't bring myself to get to. Like, I can't be professional. I always just have to be down here making the like dick jokes and stuff when I talk about science. So that's gotten me more into like,
everyone needs to stick to their lane. Everyone has their lane, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, eventually, you know, maybe you'll take one step further and get the suit and, you know, and just like have a green screen. So if you see right here.
Well, that's the funny thing. People have said, man, you're going to be the next Bill Nye. And like, I'm like, that's way too high praise. I don't think I could do that. But then I see Bill Nye doing his TikToks, swearing like crazy, you know, like lighting things on fire for no good reason.
Well, that's what made him so popular, is because like he is a scientist and he, you know, he obviously has all of this knowledge and he teaches, but the way he teaches is in a like, I'm the same as you. Just because I have a big brain doesn't mean that, you know, I didn't go work at Walmart for all this time. Like, you know, I took a different path, but we're still the same person. And he talks to you like that. And I think that's what's endearing about Neil deGrasse Tyson as well. You know, it's just like, he talks to you, even though he's like, you listen and you're like glued to the television. You know, he'll have interviews where he's talking to Joe Rogan about wrestling. You know, and it's just like wrestling in high school. So it's just like,
I actually did, believe it or not, the last show that I was on before this last Tuesday, I actually talked about wrestling. Exactly. Growing up, weirdly enough, I was on Philip Course's podcast shaped talk show, as he calls it. And I was just talking about wrestling and like what that meant. So yeah, no, I kind of get it. You know, like I want my content. Oh, well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't even like give you like the people who don't know you and don't know of you. Like, My Life as an RPG here has gotten a reputation on TikTok as sort of like the science information guy, and so people keep asking him questions about all sorts of scientific questions, and like Spitfire, the information that you're putting out in a 3-minute period is just like, I'm learning more from you in like a 3-minute period than I've ever learned in like a year of high school. Like, it's insane. Like, it's just like, but what? Like, and you're, you know, and like every video that I see is like 3,000 likes. You know how you watch a TikTok and it's just like, you know, 1 like here and then 100 million like the next TikTok or whatever. But yours is like at least from the ones that I've seen, or is like a consistent, like, good amount of likes and interest and engagement. And that's just because you know, it's like I don't know these things, and you speak in such in a confident way that I'm like, yeah, it must be true. I don't know.
So I actually the best advice I was ever given in terms of making educational content was actually one of my college professors. My favorite professor ever. He was actually the one who taught my astronomy classes when I was in college. He said, if you want someone to understand something, talk to them as if they are slightly drunk and as if you are slightly drunk. And if you could do that, then they will absolutely understand it. One of the big problems with educational content, and I'm actually doing a couple projects to sort of like put on more educational stuff on TikTok and YouTube with like some other educators. But one of the big problems with educational content is teaching itself is a skill. And a lot of people who try to teach instead try to be what I call being subject complete, where they just dump so much info at you that your eyes gloss over and you totally lose track of what they're saying. Education has to be a conversation between basically, the person who's giving you info and the person who's receiving info. And if it's going to be a conversation, then that means you have to talk to them in a way that they want to receive that info. And It's not that people aren't curious, people are super, super curious, they want to know these things, it's just, it needs to not feel like work. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do when I do this stuff. Someone asks a question, they really want to know stuff. And I'm like, cool, I'm out on a dog walk, I could talk to them as if they were my friend at a bar, asking me a random question.
Well, you bring up a very interesting point. Actually, I just thought of this because I remember when I was going in high school and, I was an okay kid. I had a B average, but it's not like I wanted to go to school. No kid wants to go to school. There are some kids that love school and we, we got properly made fun of for it. But, there are those kids. Most kids just don't want to go, and I think at least for mine, it was because there's in my class in Las Vegas, Nevada, we had 42 kids to a class a lot of the times, and how is that? How are you able to teach kids with 42 kids, just 42 individuals who all have different sort of magnitudes of learning, of learning range, or how are you
the methods of learning, styles of learning?
Because we all agree teaching a person one-on-one would probably be the best way to teach somebody, because you can teach them on their level. But if you're dealing with 50 kids to a class, you're gonna miss a bunch,
I grew up in the third largest school district in New Jersey. The classes in my school were routinely 60 or 70 kids.
Oh, geez.
So many kids. It was impossible, and I would fall asleep all the time. But the weird thing about it was I would go home and I would read the textbooks on my own time, because they're like, oh, you're in this chapter, and I'm like, screw you, I have a book, I could go to whatever chapter I want, and then I would go to the quantum physics chapters, the astronomy chapters, the advanced biochem chapters, and I'm like, this is really interesting, this is all really cool. And then I would go to school and I would fall asleep in class. And so that's I was a very weird kid in school. When I got to college, I held it as a badge of honor that I never went to class and still managed to get A's. And I don't want to say that was me being intelligent, because that is not me being naturally intelligent. That was me just taking advantage of the fact that these professors got paid either way, and as long as I knew the material, then I didn't have to follow their schedule and sit in a chair for an hour and a half. I could look at the syllabus, go to a park, read on my own time with music blasting in my ears, and then take the test just as well. And that's how I got through college. Because
if you get the information, you get the information.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't matter how you get the information. It's just if you learn it, you learn.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, you should take pride in that.
I don't take pride in it because I do not want people to copy me. Let's put it that way.
If it works now, because I feel like you're smart enough to know that the first couple times you would do something like that, you're like, I'm not going to go to class, I'm just going to read the book at the park, and you do your thing, but then you get distracted, and then you get distracted again, and then you go take the test, whatever, and you fail, and then you fail again doing the same sort of thing. You probably learn and be like, maybe I should stick around. maybe I should alter the course here.
Yeah, I feel like everyone should learn in the way that is best for them. Some people learn better by doing stuff in a different schedule than say I have ADHD, right? Sitting in a chair in a lecture hall for an hour and a half is actually my own personal version of hell. I cannot imagine a worse experience. And so, I just work better if, I'm doing other stuff as I'm learning. And I realized sort of growing up, especially after I graduate, there were a lot of people who struggled in the school system because they learned more like I did. They wanted to be a little bit more hands-on. They needed something to, partially occupy either their hands or, like music to like get themselves into like a zone where they could learn.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the things, like I said, it's a little weird because as I said before, I'll let everyone know. I am not a scientist. I am a journalist. I have done, science and educational journalism, but I've primarily done gaming journalism because I am a nerd. But one of the things that I've been really interested in is that there are all these new pushes to change the way that we teach people, and one of there's things like gamifying education, that's being done at like lower levels that has shown to have like incredible results. And I find the way that people learn to be fascinating, because when I was growing up, there was just this idea that either you knew it or you don't, either you were smart or you weren't. And now it's just like, oh, I just learn completely different from other people, and the kid 3 seats down might learn completely different too, like there's this assumption that some kids don't want to learn, and that's just not true, because I find that like people, when I just start talking about this stuff, they're like they look like a kid in a candy store, it's like, okay, let me talk to you about quantum physics. They're like, please talk more about quantum physics. Like, okay, I will.
But the gamifying education, like I haven't read any what new advancements there are, but I've since I was a gamer and still am very much a gamer, like I always thought to myself, and like, well, especially nowadays with how graphics and their each game is telling a really compelling story, like Assassin's Creed, for example. I'll give you an example. So Assassin's Creed is, fiction-y. Like they'll take real bits, like real people, real places, and then just make a fictional game, right? What if they made a similar game, but just completely take the fiction out of it?
Oh yeah,
and like just that... like, hey, play this game. You're Marie Antoinette. This is, and just like you play it out like a Telltale game or something,
Oh yeah, it would be fantastic. Like look at this. I always use Dark Souls as an example. The amount of studying you have to do to understand the lore of Dark Souls. You have to go out, risk your life to find an item that you're never going to use, to read 5 paragraphs of the description of the item to maybe understand what's happening. And people like gladly do it and say it's like the coolest like thing in the universe. You could do the same thing and just like bake in tangential learning for real concepts, You like a sci-fi game where like the lore would teach you about, like the reason why, this all works is because we did this with relativity, teach them about stars, teach them about neutron stars, about gravity, stuff like that.
And you can have a field day with philosophy and morality.
Yeah, it would be great.
Because it's already in RPGs anyway. Just the ideas of really difficult moral choices.
Yeah. Have you ever played the Zero Escape series?
I've not. No.
That is a amazing branching path escape room game, and its entire theme is philosophy and mathematical theory. And its main mechanic is based on the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, which they go into real depth about.
Oh wow!
And it's also anime as crap. Like it's the most anime thing ever. But no, it's really interesting because like it goes into stuff like, what does morality look like in a quantum world where every choice has to be made, and it actually it gets into really advanced concepts, and you don't even realize that it's teaching you because you're in the middle of this crazy anime death game. And like that's one of my favorite series just for that reason. Like I highly recommend it. It is very anime, so for people who are not into that, buyer beware. But if you like crazy anime bullshit, highly recommend.
Yeah, and yeah, anime loves that morality and philosophy stuff, like to the point where it's like nothing makes sense anymore.
Yeah,
and to a lesser extent, actually, this actually is similar in the entertainment field. We watched right at the beginning of the pandemic. We watched A Good Place. No idea what that show was all about. Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like I loved it because it dealt with really complex theories of of morality and philosophy, but in a comedic way. I'm like, wow, they actually did it. They actually were able to teach an audience through comedy, like this really complex, really kind of, if you're sitting in a classroom with a professor, turn your page to page 42, we could talk about Kant's moral philosophy, and and you're like, oh, okay, I'm done. Yeah. But in this comedic way, I was like, wow, I actually appreciated it. It's not the best show in the world, obviously, but like it's a unique show. It's one of the more unique shows.
It's quotable. It's very quotable.
Yeah.
I there have been many times where me and my friends have been like, oh, I get it. This is the bad place. Spoilers, I guess, for people who haven't watched The Good Place yet.
It's a good show. Oh, by the way, this is totally off topic, but like, how did the Skullgirls tournament go?
It went fantastic. There were people in the chat who actually said that they ended up going there because they saw your promo. So big thanks for that, by the way.
Awesome.
It was great. We had a ton of people watching. We had some of the best talent, that I had seen playing this game in a really long time, which was fantastic. It really kind of lit a fire under a lot of people. So now, we're a lot more tournaments are coming out of the community. We're having a Tekken tournament next month.
Nice.
We're having a release tournament for the upcoming DNF Duel, which is coming up. One of my friends is running a league for Tetris Battle Gaiden, which, if you haven't heard of, is an amazing Tetris game. It's basically a Tetris game with fighting game special moves.
I've never heard of that, but that sounds amazing.
It's so good. It is a classic for the SNES that never came to America. Of course, now you could play it, because everyone can emulate it,
because all the cool games were kept in Japan.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true.
Like I was just watching an old Angry Video Game Nerd episode, and at the end, he went through all the United States released Godzilla games, and they're just terrible. All of them are awful. And then he wait, was it Godzilla or was it something else? I think it was Godzilla. Yeah. And so then he finds like a bunch of other like Japanese. No, it was Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
Back to the Future. All the Back to the Future games that were released here sucked, but they released one on the Super Nintendo. It was Back to the Future. Had the music, had all the characters, had everything else, and he was like, "Why the fuck is this in Japan?" And we have these horrible Back to the Future games.
Really interesting. Sort of reason for that. So I'm going to talk about like my experience in game journalism a bit here. There's two reasons for that. Number one, the idea that game developers have about what sells in America is just wrong. American developers kind of get what sells in America. Japanese developers have no idea what is supposed to sell. Which would make sense. Do you remember Final Fantasy Mystic Quest?
Oh yeah.
Like the beginner's Final Fantasy for American audiences, so
hey, I actually enjoyed it. Okay, I don't know what that says about me and my intelligence level, but I enjoyed it when it came out. Okay.
I had not played. I've played every Final Fantasy, but I had not played Mystic Quest until about 5 years ago.
Oh my god! I'm so sorry.
I was doing a Let's Play channel with a couple of my friends called No Nostalgia Filter at the time. The rage that came out of my mouth playing that game. I was so upset at the existence of that game. It was, to the extent that I had fun hating it so much.
Dude, it holds your hand like you're a toddler.
The fact that the default mode is not only you have like only 3 things you could do, but also you don't have control of your partner, and also you don't get to see what your HP is because numbers are too intimidating for an American audience.
I'm like, yeah. And then they had to, what was cool, but like I liked what they did as far as like when you're beating a boss, it shows deterioration.
That was really cool.
I mean,
that
like
was really
they probably
neat.
did that because we're going to show these stupid idiots that this guy's about to die because, so, but then
also you could beat the final boss by casting Cure on him, which is fun. They never fixed the integer underflow, so
you can look at it two ways. You could say they messed up somewhere in the programming, or you could say that they meant to do that because they, if a person is smart enough, he is the master of evil or whatever he was, the Dark Lord. What is the opposite of darkness? Light.
Yeah.
Love cures. Love kills him.
Oh man. To be fair, I love when games stay broken because I'm like a big fan of speedrunning. So when a game is just completely off the wall, busted code, that is the most fun I've ever had. I'm one of the weirdos that
speaking of which, like I miss Game Shark for that very reason.
I loved Game Shark. I had every cheat device known to man. I don't know if you remember, like in the back where it's like you can make your own codes, just screw around. I did that all the time with Game Genie and Game Shark, and I would like end up with some hellscape like game codes, but it was so much fun. That's how I actually got into coding when I was really young.
I imagine that would be a good gateway into coding because you're like, why isn't there not a cheat code for like infinite life on this character? What the hell? That's it. I'll make my own damn cheat code.
Yeah, and I started learning what like RAM addresses were, what hex addresses were. It's like, oh, it's just all numbers.
Yeah, you just fiddle around and see what works.
And I absolutely still do that to this day with like PC games and Cheat Engine. Like, I still make codes for games, and I'm like, I'm gonna hack the crap out of this just because it's my game, and you can't tell me not to.
And we could go down this route, but I never understood the whole idea of like you're a bad gamer if you cheat at a single player game. Let me maybe preface that. Yeah. In a single player game, if you cheat at your game, like where's why all the hatred? Like you're not playing the game its way it's supposed to be played. So who cares?
Yeah, 100% with you there. I made a couple TikToks on this. I cheat like crazy, like honestly, because like that like it gets people into programming, and you'd be surprised how much, because like have you played Undertale?
I've not played Undertale, no, but
good game. You're gonna get comments now for saying that you haven't played it.
I have a list, a growing list. Okay, Undertale is on that list somewhere. But
the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Oh, of course, yes.
And the fact that Toby Fox, did the graphics and the coding and the writing and the soundtrack all at once. Toby Fox is a madman. Toby Fox got his start just fooling around with like Game Shark and Game Genie stuff, and then ended up making a ROM hack for Earthbound, and then from there ended up developing games.
Yeah.
So cheat devices teach people about how games work, and I think it's a good idea to expose more gamers to them. The general perception of you are playing a game wrong is like this product of this manufactured gamer identity. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You hear me?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, that was weird.
Okay, that was strange.
I checked my internet. My internet seemed to be fine. That was weird. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
anyway,
manufactured gamer identity.
Yeah,
that's where we left off.
Yeah, that's where we left off. No, I started talking about that, and my computer crashed because the gamer ninjas came after me. So like, you can't let anyone know. This is our secret. So one of the weirdest things about working in the gaming industry is you get to see how the sausage is made. And one of the things is that when you go to a marketing department meeting, which are the weirdest meetings, it's very strange. They're constantly talking about how they need to market this game in a way that makes people feel like a real gamer. because when people feel like completion of this game is intrinsic to their worth as a member of the community, then they are more likely to purchase that game without thinking about it. So
you, wow, it's kind of crazy. You're now, it's sort of like, in order to be a part of the cool kids club, you have to, complete this game this way.
Yes, exactly. So that's on purpose. That was a tactic that started in the early to mid 90s that has persisted in the gaming industry until this day. And you see it in just about everything, you see it not just in Dark Souls, but for example, in Super Mario Odyssey, right? Even though it has, these family-friendly modes, they are specifically worded in such a way to make you feel a little bit bad if you turn them on, so that when you see the game, you're like, I'm going to purchase, my friend used the system code, but I'm going to purchase this game and show him, that I can beat it in the real way.
So they're playing. Wow, it's actually kind of genius now I'm thinking about it, because you're playing on a human's need to one up the other guy.
Yep. And so that's very, very carefully and purposefully done in the marketing and design of video games to create the gamer identity. Whenever someone out there is talking about real gamers or whatever, that they want you to think like that. The whole gaming industry is designed to make you think like that. Just like the console wars are a manufactured thing. The Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, they are way more communicative than you think. Of course, they're not telling each other their plans, but they have to be communicative for stuff like cross-platform play, for stuff like, multi-console launches. They have to know a little bit about what each other is doing. And this fervor of real gamers, have Xboxes, or real gamers have PlayStations, that just increases sales. So playing into that helps the market.
Isn't that just so fun? It's just so weird, man. Because when I grew up, it was the gamers that were ostracized from the rest of the society. We were nerds. We were, living in our mom's basement kind of guys, we were those, and they pushed us away. We weren't on the football team. I was on the football team, but I wasn't part of the stereotype, y'all. So, but that was the general consensus. You didn't tell your friends that you didn't tell the wider world that you were in a D&D group.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was the one-way ticket to getting made fun of. But
but now it's if you don't play D&D the right way, you're ostracized from the D&D. It's just kind of crazy how it's all kind of evolved that way.
It's very strange, it's and here's the thing, that's an inevitability. A lot of people, when I'm explaining to this, this to them, they're like, oh, the big bad corporations are making us do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, maybe for a bit, but when any fan base gets large enough, sees enough success, it's going to have these divisions inside it. And you see the same thing with sports, the team rivalries in sports help drive viewership, help drive ticket sales, so it's just the same thing, but it's coming to the gaming world because we're big enough now, and we are big. We make more money than the movie industry.
That was actually my point when I brought up Final Fantasy VII, and I was actually genuinely curious because I had no idea that there was infighting between Final Fantasy fans about 7. I thought 7 was just its own thing, and everyone kind of just relatively agreed with it. And we're just even if they didn't like it, they were yeah, it's 7. So yeah, we get why Sony is pushing 7, but apparently it's created rifts because Square Enix is a company. 7 has all of this attention because rightfully or not rightfully, who knows, but it's obviously garnered more of the money than any other Final Fantasy, whether it's because of their advertising campaigns or people just love it. I don't really know, but people were 7 sucks, and I just never got it. And then people started explaining to me why they believe that 7 it doesn't necessarily say that 7 is a bad game, but like it's just pushed down the throats of Final Fantasy fans so much. They're just like, well, I love 6. Where's 6's love? You know, where's like all the loves for all these other games that touched my heart? Yeah. And so I can get that. At the same time, I immediately thought of sports. Because there's infighting amongst like Giants fans or Dallas Cowboy fans. Like, you're not a true Dallas Cowboy fan if you don't like Jared Jones. You know, So it's just like, so in the silver lining of that would be that it's a good thing because a very nerdy thing like Final Fantasy has gotten so big that infighting can occur, just like you said.
Yeah. I have this theory, by the way. I think everyone's Final Fantasy is the first one they played. Like, fair. Which, you know, the first one that I ever played was 6, and my favorite is 6. My favorite number one, my actual favorite one, is Final Fantasy Tactics, the very first Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is that story, the gameplay, one of the most fantastic things that Squaresoft ever made. Most people don't know about it, so that's fine. But
you know why? It's because they only released its sequel on the Advance, the Game Boy Advance, and I'm just like, why would you do that? Just put it on mobile. Make it a mainline one. Like, I don't understand why they did that.
Because tactics games weren't doing good at the time. Traditional RPGs were doing better than tactics games. Final Fantasy Tactics, in terms of sales, didn't sell well at all. The original one.
I guess you're right, but critically, it was a critically acclaimed game.
Critically acclaimed. Sales were down. You know,
I guess that speaks more. Damn it.
You know, and that's one of the things. Like, so when that happens, that's usually what you see. Like when a game is critically acclaimed, but its sales are down, you will see the series continue, but in spin-offs in some way. That's why, like, the Suikoden series ended up on mobile platforms, on the DS, stuff like that. That's why you end up seeing these well-loved franchises end up in sort of handheld hell for a while, and before they come back. Or get a spiritual successor. Like, I backed Eiyuden Chronicle. I'm really hyped for that. I don't know, like, did you play Suikoden back in the day?
Oh yeah.
It was great. Have you heard of Eiyuden Chronicle?
I have heard of it. I haven't. Yeah, but I haven't. Like, when it first was announced, that was years ago. But like, I haven't really researched it after that.
The prequel game just came out, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, the teaser game. So I need to play that. But that. Phenomenal. Like, it's the original team that's like, we're just making another Suikoden, can't stop us.
That's amazing.
You know. So the indie sphere has done so much for like the retro gaming community. Like Bloodstained for the old Castlevania fans. You know, we're seeing there was a new Vestaria Saga, which was made by the original Fire Emblem creator. You know, we're seeing all these like classic, people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that made, the original games that we loved, being like, screw you, I'm going to Kickstarter and I'm making the game I want to make, and that does a lot. That does a lot for, the indie sphere and for gaming in general.
Yeah, it's really truly amazing that an avenue like that has popped up, because like, this is actually a question I wanted to ask you. If you felt this too as a gaming journalist, and being in the gaming sphere, certainly more than me, but just, I have this feeling that retro gaming and just this idea of being nostalgic about these older games, I just feel like it's becoming more and more of a thing in the zeitgeist. And maybe it's because the algorithm is pushing that stuff to me, because I'm involved in the retro gaming community to an extent by what I do on YouTube and TikTok and whatnot. But it's just weird. Like, I'll be on YouTube and I'm watching gameplay footage of something. And the first comment I see, and a lot of these gameplay footages is like, I'm only here for the music, or I'm here for, just like stuff like that, just stuff like being very nostalgic about these games. Like the first comment that I see, and I'm like, is something happening, or is it just that I'm noticing it more?
So there actually is a shift in sort of the popular gaming zeitgeist, and it comes from game development. And it's only very recent. And I say recent, like it's probably been happening over the last decade, but that's recent enough. like that's forever in internet years.
Yeah.
But still, it used to be that in gaming and in game development, the idea was whatever level of technology you are developing your game at, as soon as you can obsolete it and move on to the next thing, the better your game is going to do. Like, you remember the bit wars, 8 bits, 16 bits, get the TurboGrafx 16. It has 32 bits. Why did you name it the TurboGrafx 16?
The Jaguar.
Yeah, exactly.
The first 64-bit machine.
Oh, you remember those commercials?
Oh my god,
that is.
Remember the
big sandwich controller? Like,
what is it? It does have all these other buttons,
numpads in the middle. Yeah. Oh,
what were those used for? I never had a Jaguar, but
nothing. Not like they were used on a game per game basis, and mostly nothing. Like,
didn't only like 10 games come out for the Jaguar?
I mean, more than that, but yeah, like I think it was less than 100. I know that the Virtual Boy had like 21 or something like that. Yeah. The game systems that never were. But yeah, we remember the bit wars, and the idea was, as soon as you could obsolete whatever you were doing, the better your game was going to sell. Make your resolution higher, use, the new modeling system, so on and so forth. And of course, there are still games that do that. We have these big AAA titles that are like the biggest name in everything, the biggest tech. Look at how many polygons, our main character's ass has, like, people still do that. But what people have realized only recently, and the reason why they've really realized it only recently, is because gaming is still very young. And we've only gotten to the point where that can be a thing, is that the technology you create a game with is an artistic choice, not just a limitation. So like now, if you make a sprite-based RPG, it's partially because you think your game would work well as a sprite-based RPG, not because the technology to create a polygonal RPG is outside of your price range.
Yeah.
If you make, say, like a side-scrolling platformer like Shovel Knight, that has this 8-bit aesthetic with, its chiptunes, you're doing that because you think that is the best medium for your game, not because they couldn't have made Shovel Knight with, 3D graphics,
right?
Because like you look at games like Bloodstained, which are still a 2D platformer but use 3D graphics. That technology wasn't outside of Yacht Club's reach, but they decided that the game was better this way.
Right.
And that's creating more holistic gaming experiences where like everything feels the way it should, because the way characters move is considered alongside the way characters look, is considered alongside the way the music sounds.
Well, I think it's just so, it's amazing. It's incredible that, like these older style of gaming is just not dying.
Yeah.
Like the old, pixel style of gaming it's just not going away. It's growing and increasing in popularity. But at the same time, there still is a need for, better technology, because for like photo mode, mode's really popular, and a lot of photo photographers or video game photographers are coming out and becoming popular on Instagram and social medias because they're mastering the art of the photo mode in their games. And so like there will also of course be a need for like the best system looking thing ever.
Well, the interesting thing is that creates a feedback loop. Like, for example, you said photo mode is becoming more popular on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Umurangi Generation?
I've not.
Umurangi Generation is a fantastic indie game, and it is photo mode the game. Basically, you are going around and you are captured. The idea basically is that there is an alien invasion, and you are a photojournalist, and you have to capture evidence so that people can see what's actually happening. And
what a great idea.
It really is just like photo mode in games, but like you get graded on it a lot like you would in Pokemon Snap, and then, you have to like avoid being seen, but also capture, so there's like stealth gameplay elements to it too. And it was an amazing game. It had like incredible storytelling. It is one of the indie games that I have liked probably the most in the past 5 years. And it didn't have fantastic graphics, but it understood what was good about photo mode, like why people like that. And someone was just like, why not turn that into a game itself? And so they did.
That's brilliant. That's just brilliant. I love it. Dude, the reason why I brought up photo mode, I had a girl named Lady Snipe Shot. She actually introduced me. Well, a bunch of people introduced me to TikTok, but like she was one of the more convincing aspects to it, because before I got on TikTok, the only TikTok thing that I've ever heard of was from Your Mom's House podcast, where they would find the dark talks, you know, and just like the darkest sides of TikTok. So I'm sitting here thinking that's what TikTok is. It's like, I don't know if I belong just yet. Maybe wait another 40 years where my life is falling apart and I'm heavy into drug use, you know.
I mean, the weirdest thing was I was a lurker on TikTok way before I started making content. I got into TikTok via YouTube compilations of memes, like, you know, back in the hit or miss era, you know, like, but it was just, you know, memes recycled over and over again. And I mean, to be fair, TikTok still is memes recycled over and over again.
Right, of course.
But
of course.
The reason why I started making content actually was last year. I ended up, unfortunately, ending up in the hospital. I needed to have kidney surgery, which sucked.
Yeah.
And it took me like months to recover. I ended up having to just lie in bed for a really long time. And I was bored out of my mind. Like, I played a bunch of games. But eventually I was like, what am I going to do? And someone made a TikTok about some gaming question. Oh, it was, how are you going to piss, in one sentence, how do you piss gamers off? Right.
I think I actually saw that.
Yeah. And so I did my answer to that, you know, is that what I just told you earlier, the identity of a gamer is wholly manufactured to drive sales. And that was my very first TikTok video. And people liked it, / hated it. Because
it got a conversation going.
Yeah, a lot of conversations started. And then I did that from my bed, you know, because I couldn't get out of bed. And for the first couple of months, all my TikToks were just from my bed. And then from that point on,
you know, I always wondered why you did that.
Yeah. Well, that's where it started. That's where it started. Like, it started because I couldn't get out of bed.
Like, it almost, but you know what's interesting? It's like this guy just like it's like just doesn't care. And I
don't. I would like to say I have zero shame at this point. Like,
it was in your favor. I just want to say it was in your favor.
So yeah, I started doing TikToks from my bed. And then, you know, since I have, of course, recovered, hooray. But I've continued to do a lot of TikToks from my bed because now it's partially my brand.
It's your thing. So, like, it's your thing now. You can't escape it.
You know? And so, yeah, you know, fast forward a couple months and now I'm here 83.4K, you know, like,
yeah, like, wait, when did your, you know, we can get into this because I'm just fascinated by TikTok and how different it is to other social media platforms. And like, before I started TikTok, you would catch me someone like, I friggin' hate social media. And to be fair, that's only because TikTok's been really nice to me. I haven't got to the point where, you know, TikTok's going to ban me for some stupid reason. Because I've been there. You know, it's going to happen. I imagine I'm going to say some stupid comment, be like, yeah, dude, awesome. Or like, that snare sounds like a shotgun, and I'll do a shotgun emoji and get banned for that or something. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't got there yet.
It doesn't have to be something like crazy like that. My friend Stray Gamer Dog, he got banned because he made a TikTok saying, and I don't agree with him for the record, but saying that a well-done steak could be done just as well as a medium rare steak. Now, personally, I think that's sacrilegious, but the fact that he made that got him like report bombed, and he got his account banned for 24 hours. And
my God.
And the funny thing is, like, this guy has like made political TikToks before. None of those get reported. the one about steak gets reported saying
Dude,
that
I'm surprised that dude, I knew, oh, man.
Just wait, the wasp lovers are going to get to you. They're going to get to you.
That
eventually.
wasp thing. For those who are unaware, I've already talked about this, but like I don't get political for this very reason. Like I don't even really get that opinionated on my TikTok just for that very reason. I don't want to piss anyone off. I don't want to get report bombed or whatever, even though I do have opinions and I'm a very opinionated person to an extent, at least on my YouTube channel and my podcast. I'll have strong opinions, especially about Dark Souls. But anyway, I say something, I ask a question to My Life as an RPG here. And it's an innocuous question, and it's a question that we've all asked ourselves. Do wasps offer anything to the universe, to the earth, other than just being assholes and just sting you? And apparently that's what they do.
That's what they do. That's their thing.
That is their thing. They keep other insects and population in check by murder. And that was it. That was like 2 weeks go by after we have that, fun little question about wasps. And then just one day I get like just 10 or 11 different comments just all at the same time of just negative, like, oh my God, you just got mad about hornets and bees. It's pathetic as fuck. Just like really aggressive. Like,
I went back to read those comments. It was nuts. You would think you like insulted like their mom or something, like specifically went to their house and insulted their honor. Like, what is going on?
And it wasn't like I was like, you know what? It wasn't like I was all dead serious, deadpan, and was just like, wasps got to go. Yeah. And I'm going to go on a tirade and murder all the wasps and bees. And, if it affects the earth, I don't care. Like it wasn't anything like that. It was an innocuous question. And like, it got so bad, like one guy stitched me, shirt off, tattoo and everything, was like, I'm so sick of this fucking question. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but what he said, but I took, this class for this long. And it's like, he said, it's us humans that don't belong on this earth.
Oh my God.
And I was like, all right, dude, like, just don't hurt me or my family.
Calm down. Everything's cool.
I mean, to his credit, he deleted that stitch because I tried to find it and show it to people, but he deleted it. So I'm like, good. Finally, like, maybe I shouldn't have like got all threatening on him. But anyway,
well, it's also like, I mean, we've all, I guess I'm speculating here, but we've all gotten to the point where we've posted something. You're like, maybe I shouldn't post that. And I think if, a day passes and I'm like, wow, I really posted a shirt off threat video to someone who said they don't like wasps, maybe I would take it down too.
Yeah, and to be, to his credit, like, I'm glad that like cooler heads prevail. It's like, it's not like I insulted his mother or anything. But like, back to TikTok, like, was it pretty much immediate when
it wasn't immediate? My account has definitely gone through a couple shifts because like when I started, I had just lost my last job, partially because I was in the hospital for so long. So I used to write for Newegg. I used to write for Newegg's website, Game Crate, and that website eventually ended up closing its doors because the pandemic happened and money was rough. And I was sort of like one of the last people in a skeleton crew. And after I ended up, getting sick, it was just like, well, it is what it is, and then I ended up losing that job, so starting TikTok, I was like, well, the thing I know most about, more than anything in the world is video games, so, and I've been part of the gaming industry so long, so maybe I will do like a channel that is devoted to like teaching people about the gaming industry. And that went well. I had a couple things that just like blew up when Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out and people were getting the bit flip error. I taught people what a bit flip was.
What's a bit flip? Let me for me, because I have no idea what that means.
So this is partially what got me into the science thing, but we are bombarded all the time by cosmic rays. They, you know, they're wavelengths of light that come down from the sun along with the rest of the energy, pass through stuff, and it doesn't matter. But if they hit the capacitors, if they hit your circuits in your computer in just the right way, they create either a gain or drop in electric current. And the way that your computer basically reads 0 or 1 is if an electric current is high or low. So there is an infamous example of someone who was speedrunning Mario 64 and was going through Tick-Tock clock and got to the part where there's like that little like grate that sticks out from the side of the wall, and you have to like climb up a pole to get in it, like, you know, the one. He jumps up near the grate and suddenly teleports to the top of it, which would save like a ton of time. And he can't replicate it. He goes into the code, figures, like, tries to do all this, and he's like, I'll give $1,000 to anyone who could figure out if we could replicate it. No one could figure out what to do. And a physicist was like, well, what happens if you change this one bit in the code from 0 to 1? And then he did that, and that made it happen every time. So what happened, as best as people could tell, was a cosmic ray came down, hit his console, flipped that one bit, and allowed him to teleport up to the top of that grate for that one speed run. And so it was the universe shaved some time off his records.
My God.
That is
incredible.
Bit flips happen all the time. Like, our computers and our software are built with redundancies. So if one bit is out of place, the software sort of looks at it, it's like, oh, that's wrong, flips it back, and then we're all good. But when Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out, Nintendo gave you both games on a single cartridge. Like, when you downloaded Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you were always downloading both games, even if you only bought one. Mm-hmm. The only thing that determined what game you were playing was a single bit. And there were no redundancies baked into this bit.
Oh.
So after people bought Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, people, like, every so often, people would be like, why did I boot this up? You know, I bought Pearl and I'm playing Diamond now. What's happening? That's because a cosmic ray came down from the universe, flipped that bit. It came from the sun, flipped that bit, and now suddenly you're playing the opposite version of Pokemon.
Dude, that is insane. That's insane. I had no idea that was even possible.
Yeah, so I posted about that, and that was the very first one that started blowing up, because people were like, you know, what the heck, is this real? And then people started showing video evidence. It's like, yeah, no, it's absolutely real. It happened to me.
They should do that more often, just to throw in like an extra layer of chaos in our gaming.
I mean, I think it would be cool. Again, I am more in favor of buggy games. The buggier, the better. I liked Cyberpunk 2077 when it first came out. But yeah, like, part of it was that, you know, half of the Pokemon fans were enraged. They're like, you mean to tell me that they gave me both games, but I can't play both games? Rabble, 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 you know? and the rest of them were like, holy crap, so radiation from the universe can affect our gameplays? And then I would give them the link to that infamous, you know, Mario 64 speedrun where it happened. And like, that blew a bunch of people's minds. And then so I started getting, you know, like, I started as this, you know, gaming channel, but then I started getting all these science questions, like, what other forms of like radiation can like affect gaming, you know, what could happen there? And then so things slowly shifted over to the science side of things.
So how many questions do you get on like a daily basis?
On a daily basis, honestly, more than I could count. I will tell you exactly how many drafts, like non-answered questions, I have right now. I have 386 unanswered questions that I still have to get through.
That's about as many song requests as I got in my queue.
It's impossible to keep up with. Like, and I just want to say, for anyone watching who has been like requesting, stuff from me, I will get to it. It's just, I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't ignored you. I don't know if you get this, but like I often get the people who are like day 3 of asking this question, day 4 of asking this question.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I have questions from December I need to get to. Please.
Hey, well, yeah. Well, I was actually having a conversation with somebody, be like, what I do, and I was at work, and they're like, wow, do you get paid for these requests? And I'm like, no. I could, and that's totally fine and totally within your right to do so, because you're an artist and it takes time to do these things. But I feel like, at least for me, like I would hate that pressure of like, this person paid me for this and I have to, like, it would drive me insane. Yeah. I don't feel like I've hit that part in my creative content where like, I feel like I can turn this into a job just yet. I don't feel like I'm that popular, gotcha, I haven't hit that milestone yet with like, if it was like 80,000 people following me, yes. Then at that point you're like, so I got to take this seriously, Yeah,
no, I'm just letting anybody know who's watching. I do not have his morals. I will sell out in a second. Please do pay me to answer questions.
Don't get me wrong, I am thinking about it, but like I'm trying to do it in a way, I don't know. I would like to do it in the most ethical way possible, and not just because it's like ethical, but like not ethics, like screw all that. Just like I don't want to feel the pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like no, I feel like it turns into a job at that point, and I'm afraid of that. I've definitely felt that burnout, like I do have a donation link up, and basically I say, like, if you donate anything, I will put your question at the top of the queue. That's the only thing. I don't give a price. I say it could be a penny. If you donate me anything, as a thank you, I'll get to your question first. And that's come up with some pretty great video ideas. Someone donated $5 for me to do a series of Smasher Pass videos on scientific concepts, which that was fun. That was a fun thing to do. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Kudos to whoever asked.
No, that was a fantastic. Big shout outs to Adam Hart. He's the person who ended up donating for that. Quantum tunneling definitely smashed. Just saying. But yeah, that ended up being a fun thing. There are some good months, some bad months as far as donations go. I'm very looking forward to Tick-Tock Pulse. That I think is going to revolutionize TikTok.
What's Tick-Tock Pulse? I haven't heard of this yet.
So you've probably heard how people complain about TikTok. Like, TikTok shares only 10% of its revenue with its creators. YouTube, on the other hand, shares 50% of its revenue with creators. And that's why people on YouTube, even if they have like 50,000 followers, can suddenly make it a full-time job.
Yeah.
Tick-Tock Pulse is a new program that is being implemented in late June for TikTok. If you have 100,000 followers or more, TikTok shares 50% of the revenue with you instead of 10%.
Interesting.
Which is going to mean, like a lot of TikTokers have been fleeing the platform because it wasn't viable to make a living out there. But that means that once you hit this milestone, now you can, much like with YouTube, start considering this your full-time job. I have a lot of friends like King Drew, who does like fighting game cosplays, or like Saiga Runner, who talks about One Piece and other anime, who are coming up on that, and I'm coming up on that myself. And that's going to be a big life changer for a lot of us. And the cool thing about that is that I understand that it's very frustrating to a lot of other people who haven't hit that milestone yet. But it also helps people stick with the platform, because that now there's something that you're shooting for.
Yeah, now you have goals. Yeah, and it's a realistic goal. Yeah, as opposed to like, oh, maybe one day I'll become famous enough to make some money. And it's like, well, you don't have a number. You don't have a clear because it could be anything.
Now you have the number. Hit this number, and then TikTok ups your share from 10% to 50%. And that is going to be very big.
That's something. I think that's something for sure.
Yeah, that's really going to change a lot of TikTokers' lives, and so I'm excited about that. Not just for me, I mean, partially for me because got to pay rent, but also just there are a lot of people who I think make astounding TikTok content.
Are you ever worried as a content creator of, I don't know, I feel like there's always the danger of chasing trends because of the financial aspect of social media creation?
I gotta say, I have never chased a trend.
Maybe not popular trends, but like, say for instance, you get another sort of big wave as far as following, and it's something that you're not really into, but you're obviously making good money at this one thing that you're not really into. So that's what like my question is. It's like, are you
like, do I ever get nervous about that? Because if I were an intelligent person, which I would like to say I am not, but if I were an intelligent person, I would have shifted my account over to bullshit anime power scaling discussions a while ago, because every so often I see someone like in the anime power scaling community say something about science, and I'm like, you're just so wrong, I have to say something. And then those videos take off. So if I just did that my whole life, I would already be at like 1 million followers and I would be rolling in money and it would be fine. But I don't want to do that because that causes me so much stress.
I imagine.
I don't want to attract beef on my channel is the thing. And so that was actually a big thing. I made this video about how 0 is sort of not a number. Emphasis on sort of, right? I made this thing, where it's like, well, we didn't always have 0 in our mathematics culturally. We adopted it from other cultures, where 0 doesn't work in the same capacity as other numbers because it has special rules. Like you can't divide by it. When you raise 0 to the 0th power, there's like 3 possible results for that. And so I go over this, and everyone immediately is like, stupid, 0 is absolutely a number, it's right there on the number line. It's like, oh my god, all the nuance.
You physically circle it with a pencil.
It's right there. I could point to it right there. And so much so that eventually I got like mathematicians like posting videos about beef with me, and like I was responding, I'm like, I know, that's why I said sort of.
Yeah, they totally missed that part of your sentence.
I wasn't out here being like tinfoil hat. It's like 0 is from outer space,
But hey, man, that's what what? That's good. That's another. Here's the other silver lining. You're big enough to have beef with.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
You're starting to get actual mathematicians pissed off because you're big enough to piss them off.
That is a very weird part of this existence. I will say that. Because like I have a lot of, like I said, like other science friends, people who specialize in neurology and physics and stuff like that, who are just nerds like me. And then every so often I get the other science accounts that like want to start beef for science clout. And like everyone in the comments are like, great, science beef, let's see this out. I'm like, I don't want this, guys. I'm not here for this. I'm sorry. I keep saying I'm sorry. I'm sure this is a very nice person. I don't want this to be a drama channel. And everyone so desperately wants to see the nerds
because
like
I'm just picturing you just, no, I don't want to fight. All right, if I have to.
One guy, with the dude who responded to my number video, one guy literally said, like, box him, like, get in the ring with him. It's like, why? I'm not committed to this. Like, I was answering a fun question. Like, someone was like, my friend told me 0 is not a number. What was he talking about? I'm like, oh,
Well,
this is what he's talking about. And now it's like, punch this guy in the face. What? Like,
well, have you ever been like invited to a debate, like an actual debate on someone's YouTube channel?
oh, absolutely. I have been invited to like debates and stuff.
Have you accepted? Okay, all right.
Never,
have you
never.
accepted?
No, I have not, because I don't have skin in the game. Like, people like it usually ends up coming from like either flat earthers or like other, like, you know, crazy conspiracy theorists, you know, who are like, debate me in flat earth. And I'm like, no, none of that seems fun. Like, you've done a really bad job of selling this experience.
Dude, as a flat earth is just like the whole flat earth thing. It's just an example, and you probably could speak to this because, you know, you're quite intelligent in these matters. You kind of have a thing for it. I've always found it fascinating that factual evidence is never the thing that convinces people to be on your side or to agree with you. It's never factual evidence, yet we still continue to have arguments with each other about facts. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, when I'm politically, we don't need to go in politics, whatever, but like, you know, just any sort of discussion that happens about an event or politically or philosophically or whatever, everyone's talking about the facts. And I'm like, this person is not agreeing with you because either they're not respecting you or they don't agree, that they don't think that you know enough, or that there's something else. It's not the facts. Yeah. There's something else that is blocking them from seeing the world the way you should think that they should see the world. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, absolutely. It's well, that's why I don't do these debates, you know, because like when you're doing a debate like this, like when I was in college, right? I did stuff for the debate team, and there were like rules and stuff for that, you know, like you were playing a game. And I love games, so I was like, sure, I'll play the argue with people game. Why not? But when it comes to like these YouTube debates, the person you're debating has already decided that they're right. They've already decided that they're right, and they've already decided that no matter where your facts come from, it's bullshit, you know? And in an arena where someone can always just choose to not believe your evidence, no matter how much evidence you have, that's not really a debate, you know? That's just, you know, that's just two people screaming over each other. So I have, you know, I have no interest in that, because there's nothing productive I'm going to get out of it, you know? When I address, for example, people who have posted misinformation in my comments or something, a lot of times I'm like, you know, I just want to present the information I have, you know, here are the studies that I'm quoting, here's the evidence that I have, and then I'm just going to let people who are watching choose who they want to believe, you know, because I'm never going to convince the other person, you know, like they've already decided that either I'm in the pocket of big government, or I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm doing, or all my evidence is biased because of scientific conspiracies or something like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not in the business of convincing you. You already have your beliefs, right? You know, go for it. Well, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting to me when, you know, people have these like just high octane arguments against one another, and I'm just like, what's even the point? It's because like it's a human need to want to win, and to want to, like, again, one up the next person and walk away feeling like you've won something. But like, if the idea is to get to the truth, then shouldn't we try something different, as far as like, okay, if two people have opposing sides there's this one event, they have different opinions about this one event, wouldn't it make more sense to like skip that event altogether, because there's already tension, and maybe, I don't know, find something that they both agree on first, build on that, and then slowly but surely get to the things that you don't agree with. You've actually hit on something. So sociological studies show that people are more easily convinced of other people's points of views if they are humanized to them first. So the best thing you can do if you want someone to know your point of view
is to go out and do something fun with them, like have a dinner with them,
have a drink
with them, something like that. That makes it. And I know that there are a bunch of people who are going to be like, I can't imagine doing that. Well, that's not your duty. You don't have to. But a lot of when you have sort of these rooted in the ground beliefs, it's very easy to dehumanize everyone else who doesn't have the beliefs that are the same as yours. So as people get humanized, that's how beliefs start to change, and that's how kind of the psychology of belief works. So it's a lot easier than yelling at people, because I
remember watching a debate years ago when I was like kind of into watching people debate and just like, oh, this is fascinating. There's this debate tactic before they start getting into what they argue about. They actually try to say to them what the other person is, what their point is. Before they even start debating. This is what this person is saying. And then the other person who's on the other side will say what the other person is saying. And if it's right and they both agree that that's where the point of views are coming from, then they can start debating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, I like formal debates. Then it's just a game, but again, that is not what people are doing. They're looking to clown on people on the internet, and it's just like I said, it's not my scene. I have a lot of people who follow me from all different walks of life, and I'm very happy to say that my Discord is a pretty chill place to be at this point. And like my number one rule is just respect other people, like respect other people first. And
don't be a dick.
The platinum rule is don't be a dick. Like all you have to do is not be a dick, and if you don't be a dick, cool. And you'd be surprised how many people fail at that one rule, but that's number one.
Dude, what did we say?
I have a part of my Discord called the Naughty Babies channel, which is when someone breaks the rule of don't be a dick, that's the only channel they can access.
That's genius.
And it's great because they either leave or they decide to change their behavior, and it's really been really great. I recently had someone, and here's the funny thing again. I'm living in the weirdest timeline because it's never political stuff. Someone got really upset because offhandedly, while I was doing a video game stream, I talked about how Kirby could beat Goku in a fight. And I'm like making a joke, like it's obviously a joke. It's Kirby from Nintendo. So like I make this joke. I'm like, yeah, Kirby could beat Goku. He just swallow him up. This guy comes into the comments like, you obviously don't know anything about either series. Doesn't know what my Discord is, but finds my Discord, finds a link from someone else, signs up, starts going off, and I'm like, this is too much for me. You're going in the Naughty Babies channel. So,
oh my God,
politics. What about that?
It just reminds me of that TikTok that I keep seeing is like whether she's the Wicked Witch of the East, bro.
Yeah.
And they're just like having this really intense argument about the Wizard of Oz.
That, by the way, that audio, the Wicked Witch of the East, bro, that should be saved for all time. That is
it has to go into a time capsule.
Yeah.
This is what people used to argue about.
Ages past, when humanity is long dead, whatever comes next needs to find that and see, and what was her mom? A princess. Grow up, dude. Grow up.
It's so funny. Dude, it's so funny. I'm so like my wife, like as soon as I got on TikTok and started talking about nothing but TikTok, because that's usually how it goes. Like, because before I got on TikTok, I was people were telling me about TikTok, like I don't want to hear about TikTok anymore. I'm so over it. And then, I get on TikTok and then I start talking about TikTok. And then my wife is like, oh gosh, I'm so over it. And now she's on TikTok and she's just looking at all this great stuff. And I'm like, see, I told you this shit is amazing.
So okay. I need to ask you a question. So we're both the same age. We're both 37.
Yes.
Has TikTok made you feel like you are talking in some weird code languages to your real life friends who aren't on TikTok?
I don't know yet. I don't feel I do feel like I'm referencing a lot of things from TikTok more, and people are like looking at me like, what is that from? Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I get that all the time.
Songs. All the time. I'll start singing songs around them, and like someone will go, did you get that from TikTok? I'm like, yes, thank you. It's that one thing from the TikTok sound or whatever.
Yeah. That's actually how I get a lot of my music these days. like weirdly enough, I'll hear a TikTok sound like, oh, I want to hear the full version of that, and they'll like go and do that. But yeah, no, for me, like I'll randomly be like my non-TikTok friends. I'll say something like, like a couple months ago where it was like, so do you back, Che or the Vantalord? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Vantalord thing, I told him. Dude, that was one of the best things to ever happen to me, and it didn't happen to me. I had nothing to do with it, and it was just like. And I made a TikTok about it because I was like, I sat back and watched this happen, and it was like, and I saw a person on TikTok mention this, and I had to like say something about it. It was like, it's the like stuff like this is the good side of social media.
Oh yeah.
It's taking people's creativity and turning it up to 11, because one thing is making millions of people like think about, oh, what can I do to be a part of this?
Yeah, for a brief moment, we were all in on this story. We were all like in this big improv role-playing session, and it was phenomenal. Like and I love everything about that. That's one of the reasons why I love the stuff that I do with the fighting game side of TikTok, with FGC TikTok, because we're nuts. Like we created crazy plot lines. Like for the past tournament that I was running, I crafted this whole plot line that went on for months about like a secret, mysterious, primordial entity that was disguising itself as a Wendy's. There is an account. I made a shadow account. I made a dummy account called FGC Wendy's that started blowing up, and people were all like, who is FGC Wendy's? Who's behind this account? What's happening? And then it all came to a head right before the tournament when I revealed I was FGC Wendy's all along. And like that was such a bizarre and wonderful time in my life.
Okay. I have to go here in soon. Unfortunately, I would love we could just sit here and talk all day. I'm loving this podcast. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, I'll always do a part 2 if you want to.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I absolutely. Oh, man, this is great. Okay, so I had this idea. Certain events happened in my life where I didn't think about this podcast, and I should have, because you're the perfect guest to like go out into my following and go, hey, or your following, go, hey, I'm having My Life is an RPG on. Is there a particular question that you would like me to ask him on the podcast?
Right. And
I didn't think of that until 6 hours ago.
Fair enough.
So I apologize, but
totally fine.
And, I did get it out there 6 hours ago. I wanted to ask the wider TikTok community. I'm having you on my podcast, and I asked them, is there particular questions that they would like to ask you? And so here we go. We're gonna go. I have 4.
Okay, sounds
which
good.
is actually kind of perfect timing. Because if we had like 200 million, it would be
that would be crazy.
Much. But I have to pick and choose, and people would get angry, and then I'd get report botted. It's fine. All right, Path and Tarot asks. Does how the tarot interacts with consciousness?
Okay, so this is actually really interesting. There have been several psychological studies on tarot reading and other divination tools, right? And basically the way that it works is tools like this are developed in such a way that they are vague enough that they represent certain archetypes that we have in our mind to begin with, right? So this operates via a psychological phenomenon called prompting, where what you are doing is you're not necessarily pulling otherworldly wisdom out from the ether, but you are making your mind think about a situation within a pattern that it was not thinking about it before, because we're pattern generating animals. Neural pathways that create memory get reinforced whenever we do the same thing over and over again. So if you're looking at a problem in your life, for example, and you don't know how to solve it, usually by looking at it in a different way, coming at it from a different angle, more solutions can make themselves known to you. And this can be done in a lot of different ways. For example, you could go to therapy. All of you go to therapy. You could go to therapy. You could, talk it through with your friends. But the way that tarot and divination tools work is they have basically these little tiny encapsulated ideas about the human experience played out in a story on them, right? And then you deal them out in a certain way. And then even though your mind might be going, okay, what is the deck trying to tell me? What your mind's actually doing is saying, how does this pattern associate itself with this problem I'm having right now? And that naturally makes you come at whatever problem you are having, whatever life situation you are having, in a different way. And that's why people feel like using tarot and divination tools can provide clarity to them, because it's basically creating different neural pathways that work via different patterns of observation of the same problem you were having before.
So you're sort of making your brain look at yourself from an outside perspective.
Yep, that's basically what you're doing. And basically, it's just a prompt. It's the same as like any creative writing prompt, or any sort of conversation prompt. It is a way to get you talking and thinking about a issue in your life, or an experience in your life, or just a way of thinking from a different angle with a different set of tools.
Would you say that religion in general falls into that same brain scope?
I mean, well, so religion gets a little interesting, because religion also has other functions in the brain. There's something called the God circuit of the brain, right? And it is a series of areas in the brain that fire when someone has a religious experience. And current psychological studies show that this likely developed because as animals, we're not the only ones that have it, by the way. Other animals have it too. But as animals get more aware of their own existence, they needed something that reduced the existential anxiety of the eventual end of that existence. So there's this circuit in the brain that, when it fires, creates a series of chemical responses. Dopamine, which is the reward chemical, oxytocin, the love chemical, and it floods your body with them as you come to identify with whatever this experience is. And the cool thing about the God circuit is that you don't have to be religious for it to fire. Because if you've ever been in a very intense flow state and suddenly felt like, the world kind of melts away, that's the same circuit that is firing. So it doesn't have to necessarily be something about organized religion.
Man, it's as soon as you said flow state and we're talking about religion, I'm like, wow, there are certain moments when I've played on stage, and, especially when you're on tour playing the same music over and over again every night, there are moments where you feel like in sports, like Olympic sportians would
the sports people,
the sporties, yeah. Like little sporties, those friggin' sporties out there, sportswomen's, sports people. I don't know. They would talk about how like they're in flow state where they try to reach that, where they almost feel outside of their own body.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That when the God circuit triggers, basically your experience is kind of an out-of-body experience. Not like in a mystical way, but it's almost like you're seeing yourself from the perspective of the outside rather than the inside.
Like, and you're not even thinking anymore. It's just your being.
And that's shown to have like a lot of psychological benefits, like that actually helps you reduce stress. It actually helps like your brain juice, your cerebrospinal fluid circulate and flush out. It in general makes you a more functional human being. Now, a certain group of people reach that with religion, but there are other people who reach it with other ways. Sports, instruments, martial arts, performing on stage. I feel that way when I'm in a fighting game tournament because like my hands are just doing the combos and I'm just doing whatever it is. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
So that is an essential circuit. It's essential for our mental health. And it's almost like religion is a hack that people have found to turn it on basically whenever they need, which is very, very interesting. There's a lot of really interesting studies about that.
That is fascinating. All right, second question. This is from Brinstar.
Mm-hmm.
How many bits does the human eye see out of?
So this is an interesting question. So resolution, right? Like camera resolution or like screen resolution isn't handled in bits. And I know that he's probably thinking about this because like back in the day, the NES, it was like, this is an 8-bit, whatever. Yeah. But like
it could also be it could be a joke question. He does like to troll sometimes. So
well, no, but I'm going to take this on its face value here. So the NES, was an 8-bit computer, but a lot of 8-bit computers could have been in like 220, resolution or up to like even like thousands, but like with very low refresh rates. So just so I can double check this, I think if what we're talking about here is something similar to the NES, the NES ended up doing 8 million operations per second. So that means that the NES was able to do a math thing 8 million times every second, right?
Mm-hmm.
The human brain can do 1 exaflop of operations per second, which is a billion calculations per second. So we have a lot of NESs up here.
I gotta tell you, that is the first time I've ever heard that unit of measurement.
No, it's flops are basically how many calculations you can do.
I mean, I've heard teraflops, but exaflop. That was
exaflop. Yeah, it's we're very powerful. Yeah, so there are a lot of NESs up here. So in terms of how many calculations we can do, there's that. But in terms of our resolution, our visual resolution, we see in a resolution that is approximately 576 megapixels. Wow. So considering that the original NES, and actually I think I have to look this up, what the original NES resolution was. But the original NES had a resolution of 256 by 240. A lot more. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's fascinating. Look at that.
We are literally like billions upon billions of NESs all stacked into one, both in terms of processing power and visual resolution.
Man. All right. Well, this actually, since we're talking about humans, this is from Dory Mifa Joe. I also had him on the podcast. People check that out as well. He's hilarious and he's fun and his TikTok's amazing. And he's a great musician and he's a comedian. Anyway, he asks very simply, are we alone?
I mean,
I don't know if he means metaphorically or physically.
Well, I mean that depends. We all feel alone sometimes, like didn't have to rub it in, Joe. I mean, I know I didn't have many plans this weekend, but you don't have to call me out that way. But no, let's actually talk about this in terms of like extraterrestrial law.
Yeah, because I think that's what we're talking about here.
By all, yeah, hopefully that and not my ability to get a date. But anyway,
otherwise this podcast take a wide turn.
Yeah. So by all our calculations, life is not as unique as we think it is. We have seen evidence of like very rudimentary stuff like protein formation just basically when you create a soup with a bunch of heat and the stuff that's needed to make proteins, eventually they just start making like the point is matter in the universe in an uncoordinated state tends toward the building blocks of life. So somewhere out there, most astronomers believe that there is no doubt that there is, not only other life, but other sentient life out there. The issue, and I've made several TikToks talking about this, the issue is that information is limited by the speed of light. And the speed of light, although way faster than anything you can imagine, is also really slow compared to the lifespan of the universe. Where like when we're looking out to the edges of the observable universe, we're looking 13 billion years into the past, when we're seeing light come from there. And the universe is expanding, so the universe is expanding. So there are more and more galaxies that we will never be able to see or get to as time passes. So it is very likely, even though life in the universe is abundant, it's very likely that it's not abundant enough to ever get in contact with us, because there's plenty of galaxies outside the observable universe. There's plenty of galaxies outside the range of like ability to contact us. Like, because let's just say, for argument's sake, right? Something in the Andromeda galaxy, right? Some life form ended up evolving at the same rate as we did, right? So just tag team with us, right? Like evolved alongside us. And I'm just gonna double check my work here to see how far away it is. The Andromeda galaxy is 2.57 million light years away.
Oh my God.
Which means that if they evolved at the same rate that we did and now have the abilities that we do to send, signals out into space, we're not going to get those signals for 2.537 million years.
Oh my God. And by that time, we'll have surely destroyed ourselves.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. Like many scientists don't even give us that long. So think about this happening over and over and over and over again throughout the universe, like tons of times, It's not that there isn't other life out there. It's that the universe is just set up in a way that the chances for two sentient, technologically advanced civilizations to communicate with each other is so unfathomably small because of how unfathomably big the universe is. So we are, in a sense, is there other life out there? We are not alone, but in the sense, will we ever get in contact with other life? Probably not. So yes, we are, and I don't have a date. Thank you. Maybe I don't have a date because I keep telling people bummer facts about how big the universe is.
They're out there. They're out there for you, I promise. Okay, so that's fascinating. All right, okay, so this is the last question, and then maybe we can get into aliens or something. Because that's fascinating. This is what is the answer? The
42.
Ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything.
42. That is a quote from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy asked the infamous question, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? The answer to that question is 42. They never figured out what the question to what is the life, the universe, and everything is. So they never knew they knew the answer to the question, but they didn't know what the question was. So the answer is 42. Big shout outs for the Hitchhiker's Guide reference, by the way. That was great.
Good job, Rocket Bear 1885.
Yeah.
that was a good one. Dude. All right. We actually have a little bit of time left. So hang on. Let's get to one of my other questions that I had for you. what are your thoughts on the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial? I'm just kidding. We're going to turn this into...
I just said I didn't want beef.
No, that's why I had to throw that in there. Okay. Okay, so most of your questions are about like science and gaming and whatnot. Do you ever get? I looked on your TikTok, but you got a bunch, so I was like, I wonder if you have any questions about morality and philosophy, because that's always fascinating. Yeah. Like hobbyist, sort of fascinating to me. I never really researched it, but like,
I have a whole playlist just for philosophy. I do a lot of philosophy stuff. It ends up being a natural consequence. So everything I do in my TikTok kind of branches off from some other line of questioning. And I ended up doing a whole philosophy series because people got really upset when I started talking about causality and the quantum universe. Because so my preferred interpretation of quantum mechanics is the many worlds theory, right? So for people who don't know, the many worlds theory states that for every possible quantum resolution of a quantum event, right, there essentially exists a world in one quantum state where it resolves in one way, and a world in another quantum state where it resolves in another way. We're not creating like new matter or anything like that. It's just that if the quantum switches are flipped one way, you get this world. If they're flipped another way, you get this other world, and they both exist.
Is this the same sort of, forgive me, because I'm terribly ignorant and all this stuff, but like, is this the same sort of idea of like the many worlds, there's many versions of you going different ways, but
absolutely
you don't see those other sides, obviously, because you're going this way.
Granted, making a choice is not the same as a quantum event, but there are radioactive isotopes in our brain that are decaying, and those are quantum events. So that can influence our behavior, and influence our choices, stuff like that. There is essentially a quantum state of the world for every possible quantum event in the world, which means like more worlds than there is a number for, because like every atom has electrons, and electrons are capable of quantum events. So like, more worlds than can possibly be counted. But the weird consequence of this interpretation of quantum mechanics is that there is no free will. And the reason being, every choice you made, another you had to make the other choice in another timeline. That is a necessity for this to work, which means the you that is you in this world had to always make that choice, and the you that is you in the other world had to always make the other choice. So when you pull out far enough, all of our choices are quantum, at least to a certain extent in nature, right? So anything you do, you've made both choices in your life, like there is a world where you're having this podcast with me. There's a world where you're the president of the United States. There's a world where you're an assassin trying to assassinate the president of the United States.
I like all of the above.
So and all those worlds have to exist. There's a world where you said, fuck this guy RPG. I don't want him on my podcast, And so you necessarily have to be this you, and the other you has to be the other you for that interpretation to work. And people don't like that. Like that makes people feel very uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, because because the idea of free will is that we have sovereignty. We have sovereignty over our bodies. We have sovereignty over what I'm doing right now with my hands. I'm doing this, and
but the other you isn't doing that.
But the other me isn't. Yeah.
So it's exactly.
But also too, like with quantum theory and everything, like I feel like there's a certain point where like most people can't compute that level of pulling out. It's sort of like it's similar to how like, okay, so there's a war going on, But like no one really cares until you hear a story about a little girl that's in that war, because you're now you're seeing the story, you can feel it, you can understand it, because it's at a smaller scale, even though it's the same huge event. It's like you can process that more.
It's weird because like so like I said, this is how I got into sort of like moral philosophy, because like people would say like, okay, well, if there's no free will, how could you possibly punish someone for their actions? It's like, well, the punishment is also not free will, you know, like, so it's just as easy, you know, like I'm not, like, as much as you're not choosing to do the thing, I'm not choosing to punish you for the thing. It's just a series of events that happens in this quantum timeline, and a different series happened in another quantum timeline, you know.
There's another timeline where there are no punishments and chaos reigns.
Yeah, like it's just, that's just how it is. So it is difficult to comprehend, you know, because we like to feel like we are somehow above every scientific principle. Like, if we now have this knowledge that there's no free will, what do we do with it? And the answer is nothing, because what you do with it is also not a matter of free will, you know. Like for example, people are like, does that mean we're never making choices? Like, no, you're making choices, you know, you have will. It's just, for the universe to work the way it is, it has to be the case that the mind isn't some weird super organism that can break the laws of physics, you know. So we can't, like most scientific minds, you know, are like, that's just how it is, buddy, you know. Like,
yeah. Well, I can understand the pushback on it though, because like, especially with humans, like, you know, I'll bring up sports again. You know, it's like winning a race that, or like let's say 100-meter dash. Okay. One person runs it at 5 seconds, and it's like, oh, that's the fastest ever. No one's ever beaten 5 seconds. It's never going to happen. No one's going to ever top 3, and then one person tops 3,
right?
And then 10 more years later, like, then people are like, no one's ever going to top 3, and then someone tops it again. And so it's just kind of like, I understand the sort of like humans can do anything if they put their mind to it kind of idea. So, and when you say that there's no free will and you kind of take away that, and I can understand the pushback to that.
I understand the pushback, don't get me wrong, but it's also like, so there's this joke, right? If you don't understand determinism, right, then it's going to really upset you. If you do understand determinism, then you're gonna go to the bar and get a beer, like, because the only thing that scientific determinism is stating is that the universe is causal in some way, you know, like, you know, we still have our agency, you're still doing it, but stuff influences that, like psychology influences that, you know. And when you pull out far enough to quantum mechanics, you know, every choice is happening. So it's like, you know, you had to exist because the other you had to exist. That's just a consequence of the laws of the universe as we know. That shouldn't have any bearing on how you feel, because the whole notion is that you're not above it, you know, like you are built to feel this. You are meant to do this on camera because, you know, that's the whole point, you know, like this is the way you operate within our limited scope of the universe, you know. And human beings can do so many things if they put their mind to it. But there's another universe where they're not. That's the whole point, you know. Like,
here's another question that we're kind of get into that I actually that might need way more time, but still I'm going to ask it anyway, because can science and religion reconcile? Like,
100%.
How can 100%? How? So,
okay.
Give me your theory on how it could happen, because I feel like it can. I have my own thoughts, but
I'm before I even get into theory, most scientists are religious. Like, that's the thing. The dichotomy of, you know, science and religion warring against each other is about as manufactured as the console war is. Like, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that he's agnostic. He's not necessarily atheist, you know.
He just doesn't know.
Einstein was religious, several, Richard Feynman, also like a religious person, but also understood scientific concepts. The point is, science and religion don't have to exist on the same level. Basically, in computer code, there's this thing we call levels of abstraction, right? Because when you zoom all the way down to how a computer works, it's fluctuating electric readings. You have high readings and low readings, and you get bits, and those bits go through logic gates. Those logic gates create math, math creates code, so on and so forth. And so when you're, say, programming a video game, you're just using a user interface and writing code when all that code you're writing is making these little electric fluctuations go up and down. You don't have to know how to make those electric fluctuations go up and down. So when we are studying something like relativity or quantum mechanics, right, we're studying how the little electricity goes up and down. When you're studying religion, that is a social and sociological thing, which is way up there in sort of like the coding language, several levels of abstraction up. And in computer science, those things just don't meet. Like, you don't need to know that you're making electricity go up and down when you're coding. They both just coexist.
Let's keep it going with the gaming analogy. So like, let's say like science is like the hardware, the pieces, the bits, the code, but the religion is the writers and the people who are telling the story, a good story, and creating the art of what it means to be a video game. So
yeah, that's absolutely it's kind of like that. Those concepts of like the little bits, the zeros and ones, have no concept of what a person is, or what what magic is, or what time travel is. Sorry, I'm repping the Chrono Trigger shirt right now.
Oh, that's awesome! So, that's a great shirt.
Yeah, my limited edition Millennial Fair shirt. But yeah.
It's amazing.
So they have no concept of what that is. Everything that goes into Chrono Trigger is a product of us, of society, So in a certain way, religion is the same thing. Religion, tells all these stories about, how to live our life and treat each other, and how to think about the origin of the universe. Those can coexist with this actual origin of the universe. Like, you have to remember, not even the original people who the original prophets that were studied in religion, even holy people, necessarily said everything, for example, in the Bible or in any other religious text is 100% literal. They're parables. The opening, the Bible in many times is written in poetry. Poetry is never supposed to be literal. That's just what a poem is, when someone's talking about, walking down two roads in a poem, there aren't literally roads there, So religion, very simply, is something that has come out from people, and it has plenty of very good stories about, how that we could look into and think about how we should live our lives, how we should look at morality, so on and so forth. And none of that necessarily contradicts the fact that the Big Bang happened, for example. Because
I always wondered why the pushback of the Big Bang. If anything, you can make that and correlate it to the God, God saying, "Hey, here we go. It's proof. It's proof that he did it."
Yeah, no matter what religion you believe in, if you believe that a God created the universe, or some gods created the universe, or whatever, here's the creation. We have the cosmic microwave background. We could look back and see it.
It's like looking at the evidence. It's like looking at evidence of the scene of the crime. You're like, well, we have the gun, and we know the gun was used, but we don't know by who.
Yeah, so I don't think that conflicts with science at all. Similarly, when people are like, oh, but it says, God created man in this way, whether it's out of clay or whether it's out of the ground or whether it's, from whatever, it's like, well, yeah, sure, we tell other stories. Like, have you ever heard someone say, I made this out of my own blood, sweat, and tears? Like, I mean, like, it's because
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it.
Think about it. Like, religious literalists are the same as anime power scalers. Like when someone watches like Dragon Ball Z and they're like, no, they said that he was faster than light in that scene, so he definitely was, that's the same thing. It's like we exaggerate sometimes. We use flowery language, It
is funny. It is funny how like in the gaming world and just the nerd culture world, how serious like some people take a lot of this stuff, like almost like a religion.
Exactly.
Or actually similar, very similar to how someone would be very adamant about a religion.
Yeah. It is the exact same thing. Like,
okay.
There are people who are praying at the Church of Goku right now. But yeah, like that's just like for a very few, for a few people, everything has to be literal. But for most people, including, the foremost scientific thinkers of our generation right now, there's no conflict, because they're referencing two different things, like the Bible isn't a research paper, and a research paper isn't the Bible. They are meant for two completely different functions, and as long as you understand those different functions, you're not going to have a problem. You're not going to have a problem being like, sure, we have all this scientific evidence. Look at the evidence. That's how it is, like, and then and your religion is something completely different. It's about how you relate to the universe and the people around you. And that's serving a completely different function, like, also like, here's the thing that's even if it needs to be compatible for you, because there are some people out there who are perfectly fine with just believing two contradictory things. Like the people who believe that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a good game. Sorry. No, sorry. That's my infamous one. That's I gave that game a 5 and Nintendo has never given me a review copy since.
Oh my god.
But like
I actually haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I have 2 because I thought it was 1 and I have 2. So like, well, I might as well keep 2. And I started play 2 and I was like, I stopped playing after 3. I didn't know if it was a bad game or not. I was really distracted at the time, but I'm going to play it eventually. I'm going to play it.
I want to let you know, I am a huge fan of the Xeno series. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was good, and my favorite game of all time, like probably right behind Chrono Trigger, it vacillates up and down, is Xenogears. Xenogears is an unbelievably good game. Even for the fact that it was very rushed in its back half, even for the fact that they ran out of money, even for the fact that it had localization problems, it is an unbelievably good game. Talk about like a game that deals with like religion and stuff.
Yeah.
And the duality between religion and science. That's a very good game.
Yeah.
So I am a huge fan of the Xeno series. The first Xeno game I did not like was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I posted that review and I got so many hate comments like, this guy just doesn't understand the Xeno series. He doesn't get JRPGs. What's wrong with him?
Oh man, that's an avenue I wish we could have went down, is like just being a gaming journalist and just like being okay with, just because you're going to write your opinion. That is your job. You're being paid to write your opinion about this game and what you thought of it. And you try to be as objective as possible. But even the most objective answer is going to piss off somebody. And so how do you like mentally speaking, does that like wear on you at all? Or are you just like, you know what? I don't even.
Does it wear on me? Yes, but here's the thing you need to understand. Every games journalist starts their first 2 years in the career trying to be the hero, and past that we're all villains, every single one of us, because you get past those first 2 years and you're like, you realize, in a fit, drinking your 7th cup of coffee, at 4 a.m. after being on your feet for 14 hours at E3, you're like, no matter what I write, someone will hate me. Time to make everyone hate me, you know? And that's what it's like, because here's the thing, all reviews are opinion, all reviews are subjective, you know? Like, the best you can do, if you are making a good review, what you want to do is make sure that the people who might be interested in the game become interested in it, and the people who wouldn't and would have a bad time are not interested in it. Communicate that experience. Whether or not the game is good is subjective. So once you're doing your job, the goal is just, are you communicating information effectively? And so it has nothing to do with whether the game is good. It has something to do with whether or not you think the fan base is getting the info they need, and the people who likely won't be the fan base is getting the info they need. And that being said, that is necessarily going to make the other side hate you. Because if you think someone's going to turn someone off from a game, you need to be like, no, don't play this game. And if you think someone's going to like the game, you need to be like, you might want to try and play this game, which is going to make everyone else with a different opinion hate you. So just embrace being a villain. Just be like, you know what? I will burn this fucker down. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, and like, my editor is like, Nintendo's not going to like this. And I'm like, I gave it a 5. Give it a 5. That's what's going to happen. Publish the article. I'm not taking Nintendo shit.
As you hold your goblet stroking your cat.
Yeah, no,
I
exactly.
gave it a 5. A 5.
Let Nintendo test me. I could take away another point, you know. But yeah, it wears on me. I have gotten death threats. I have gotten doxxed before because of my opinions, you know. Again, not political, just saying stuff like, Red Dead Redemption 2 might have been better without an open world, stuff like that, you know, like real sort of milquetoast stuff, like, you know, Dark Souls, you know, it's a very good game, but I think that people who are talking about easy mode and accessibility are conflating two different things. You know, that is something that I get on my high horse about, accessibility in games, because everyone tries to make the whole Dark Souls argument. It's like, Dark Souls needs an easy mode, and that's the same as Dark Souls needs to be accessible. I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. You know what would make Dark Souls accessible? They had a fucking colorblind mode. If they had a mode that allowed the text to get bigger, if they had font options, it's so easy to be accessible. And yeah, they should be ashamed that they don't fucking have that. They should actually put in accessibility options. I don't want to get into this dumb easy mode conversation, but yeah, you should have full controller remapping, because that helps people who can't play your game. So,
to be fair, really quick before we go, because I have made videos about Dark Souls, and I have commented how I'm not a fan of Dark Souls because of the very reason that people describe doesn't have an easy mode, and I'm not that type of gamer. But I will say this: I respect a company like from Software for sticking to their principles and making the game they want to make, and not bending to a particular very loud minority of people, including me. I'm a part of that community. I would like there to be an easy mode in these games because I'd like to play them. But if you can't force a company to do something they don't artistically want to do, otherwise it's not the same game.
Well, I have embraced being the villain, and I'd like to say, fuck From Software, give us an easy mode.
I can get on board with that. I can get on board with that.
You give them respect. I'm not giving them respect. Go ahead. It's not gonna. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna let everyone know out there. I played Elden Ring. Here, you know what? I played Elden Ring, and I cheated the whole way through.
Dun, dun, dun.
I used Cheat Engine. I didn't go into multiplayer, but I used Cheat Engine, and I cheated my motherfucking brains out, and it was wonderful. And I still beat the game, and you can't tell me that I didn't. So yeah.
I love we went down this road. I love that we went down this road. Because I agree. I was trying to be the bigger person, and then now you've pulled me with. I'll be your villain with you, because I want to play these games, but like, dude, I can't.
Your anger.
But But again, I'm trying to be, objective here. I like to see how things the other side. Like there does have to be a community for people who love the aspect of accomplishing something very difficult. Because originally that's how games started. It's like you got to get the high score, get the higher score, get the higher score. And that's how it started. But as the technology grew and you were able to tell more compelling stories, and you actually can bring out the sense of adventure, starting with Legend of Zelda, I would imagine. And before that, like, D&D on the computer and stuff. But like when Legend of Zelda came out, that was when you're actually experiencing an adventure, not necessarily to beat the game. It was about the experience, the adventure at that point.
Yeah.
And so, but now, fast forward to now, those two camps, people who love adventure and people who love difficulty and the feeling of accomplishment, are rubbing up against each other every time. Every time a Front Software game comes out, they're like, I want the adventure, I want the difficulty, fuck you.
Yeah, to bring things full circle, there's no reason that those two things can't coexist. Like there's the need for adventure and the need for difficulty are two completely different things. And I think that if people understood that you can play a game for your own reasons, maybe we wouldn't be having this discussion as often, because like I get it, but like how badass of a gamer are you really if you don't have the willpower to not turn it to easy mode? Like, let's put it that way. Because all of these arguments are like, no, I need to play it on this difficulty to feel like I've overcome something. And I'm like, okay, so then do that. Are you saying that like the game can beat you before it begins because you've, put it on easy mode? What does that say about you? Once again, being the villain here, Yeah, what are you, a scrub turning things to easy mode? No. I play a lot of games on easy mode, but no, like for all the people who are like, it needs to be like this or else I'll be unhappy, then make it like that. I've used Cheat Engine and Game Shark and Games Genie to make games harder as well as easier.
This wouldn't even be a conversation if you were allowed to cheat and get Game Shark, single player games on consoles.
Yeah, no, 100%. That the removing Game Shark from modern day consoles is the worst thing that ever happened. I mean, maybe not the worst thing that ever happened. There's like genocide, but no, like
a couple notches below.
Yeah, a couple notches below that, But like, once you understand, I do feel like people our age have a understanding of video games as something that is a bit more liquid than other generations, and taking out the old man stick here, But we were straight out told in the NES era via Game Genie, it's your game, play it the way you want. That was like the tagline.
That was court ordered, by the way.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo sued Game Genie.
Yeah.
And they lost.
Yeah. Legally, you're supposed to cheat in your games. Just saying. If I was not doing my duty as a law-abiding citizen, if I did not turn on Moon Jump in Super Mario Brothers 3, but no, like we understood that games are not just a one-way conversation. It's not just the developer gives us something to play around in and then we play around with it. Games were a two-way conversation. The developer gives us this code, we can interact with the code, and then we can change the code. And then by the ways that we change the code, the developer might change the code again in their next release. Notoriously, Konami ended up altering things in Super C based on the Game Genie codes they saw people entering in with Contra. So like, that there's this feedback loop there of like how they're like, okay, we see what people want from our game, that's going to be information for us.
Interesting.
And that's something that still goes on to this day, really, because like for example, and a lot of Pokemon purists are going to get to me here, but like changes to the way XP work in Pokemon and items work in Pokemon and so on and so forth were partially response to ROM hacks and cheat codes that people were using. Like, for example, like in the old days, with Pokemon Red and Blue, one of the first cheat codes that you could easily do with a Game Boy, Game Genie, was to make it so that HM moves could be easily overwritten. And now in modern day Pokemon games, they don't even use HMs anymore. So that was a sort of feedback that was a discussion that we had with game developers. And I think that if we don't, that if we're not having that discussion, then games become very short-sighted. Kind of like they get tunnel vision in terms of making better experiences.
Well, I feel that way sometimes with AAA releases, or just like the modern gaming as it is right now, because of the mere fact that we are not allowed to do that sort of thing anymore on single player games. But I was hopeful that when Sony and Xbox even more so, because they are computer makers as well, but when Sony relented and said, oh, it's okay to have mods, I was hoping that more companies in the console space would allow more games to have mods, because like Fallout, Skyrim are so much more fun with the mods, wider with the wider community being involved and adding certain things that either is crazy or and I always believe that more options in a game is better. And
100%.
Actually, I'm actually playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now, and it's a good game. It's not my favorite Assassin's Creed so far, but I'm really enjoying it. And one thing I really enjoyed about Valhalla, just unexpectedly, is that the amount of options they have in terms of the gameplay side. Like you can adjust the difficulty by percentage. You can you can of course switch the controls however you want, and it's just like mere small things like that can make the accessibility to any sort of gamer, because you can also play that game like a Dark Souls games if I wanted to. I could just turn up the difficulty to 1,000,000 and like really concentrate on dodging more than just absolute destruction. But like
that should be what difficulty is in the future. Actually, instead of just easy, normal, hard, we should have sliders. Like that could allow us to really granularly customize the experience.
Yeah. And then, it should, like how soon a person can notice you when you're in stealth, like that kind of stuff. Like it's like I didn't realize that something that I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's a cool thing for me to mess with. I don't know.
No. I 100% agree. There is a PC game. I think it was called Fate Seal. It was basically a Final Fantasy Tactics which did that, which was like you could adjust enemy AI, you could adjust Fate Seal Arbiter's Mark, right? You could adjust enemy AI, you could adjust how aggressive they are, you could adjust your XP, you could adjust loot drop percentage, you could adjust the amount of gold you get, you could adjust the things that stores have, you could adjust how many enemies can spawn at once. And it was so granular. And it didn't have, easy, normal, hard, but it did have different experiences you wanted, So it was like you could play a game in which the enemies never dropped gold at all. You had to sell loot to get stuff. And that made it a completely different game than, say, a game where you never gained a single XP, but enemies dropped a lot of gold and you had to mitigate that with your equipment. And so that one game, Fate Seal, was like 23 different games just because of these granular difficulty sliders, and that's what I would like to see for all games. I
couldn't agree more, and I have to get going. And
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
No, that's fine. That is fine. But man, I appreciated this podcast. I appreciate you coming out and being on the podcast, and it's been great. Like just nerding out. And
this is a good time.
Yeah, and just learning. I love learning. Didn't you feel like you learned something, kids?
Yeah, hopefully you learned something. And if you didn't, hopefully at least we were entertaining. And if we weren't, well, then I'm sorry. But
is there anything you need to plug, like your socials or anything?
I'm just going to say I am My Life is an RPG everywhere. The only place that I'm not My Life is an RPG is Twitter. There I am Ange_Dargenio. My full name is Angelo Dargenio. But I'm My Life is an RPG everywhere else. please follow me on TikTok. Please follow me on YouTube. Please follow me on Twitch. I very often stream RPGs, indie games, and fighting games. Also, I want to plug T3 Part 3 Tekken is happening on June 11th. It's being run by my good friend Lone Wolf 7. We're going to have some really amazing competitors from the Tick-Tock universe. So please come and check that out. And finally, if you ever want to be in one of our tournaments, I will hold a space open for you, if you want to like compete. Because let me tell you, you don't have to be great to compete. You just have to show up. So,
I appreciate the invite. I may.
Just let me know what your game is and we'll hold an event.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Sounds good. But thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, man. This has been fun. All right. See y'all later.
Catch you later.